Let's get more on this from Trita Parsi, who's the executive vice president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Spacecraft. He joins us now live from Fairfax County, Virginia. Trita, great to have you back. Iran is presumably frustrated in this instance, I'm assuming, that European signatories haven't done more to counter U.S. sanctions. But why now, and what are they hoping to accomplish by rolling back even more commitments?
Well, I think you're quite right. The Iranians are deeply frustrated by the fact that the Europeans keep on urging Iran to completely comply with the nuclear deal while the United States is in complete breach of it, and while the Europeans themselves are not living up to their own obligations under the deal. And they have concluded, it appears, that just pressing the Europeans to do something about the fact that they are much more adamant about respecting UN sanctions rather than respecting the JCPOA has not been successful, and that the only way they can get their attention is to actually invoke a clause in the nuclear deal that allows Iran to start degrading its compliance as a result of the fact that the other parties are not living up to their obligations. It is in many ways a very negative development, but also not an unpredictable development. This was very clear. It would happen at some point if the U.S. withdrew from the deal and if the Europeans didn't do anything concretely to save the deal.
So if their goal is to grab the attention of European signatories, do you think that it will bring leaders back to the table there to try to counter some of these U.S. sanctions?
Not yet, but what it has done so far is that the initiative that Macron had in trying to get some sort of an agreement between Iran and the United States that reportedly was quite close. It was an issue of sequencing that ended up not causing it to be fully successful. That initiative could have happened a year and a half ago, but the French didn't feel any urge to do it back then because the Iranians were not putting pressure on them. Now when they are, there's a greater urgency in Europe to do something concrete instead of just issuing statements. But ultimately, this will not get fixed until the United States itself fully goes back into the deal, or at least starts respecting the terms of the deal.
Trita, what can you tell us about this facility and the impact of Iran ramping up its nuclear activity there? How serious a violation is this under that agreement?
Well, first of all, technically, it's arguably not a violation because the deal does allow Iran to scale back its compliance if the other countries are not living up to their obligations. And in the case of the United States, that's, of course, completely clear. The U.S. is in breach of this agreement and have been so for quite some time. But nevertheless, the Fordow facility is important because it is deep underground. It's not entirely clear even if the United States would have the capacity of destroying it militarily. But the specific step that they've taken has not actually moved them closer to a shorter breakout, but it does move them closer towards being able to establish a shorter breakout. So it is a worrisome step, it's a negative step, but it's a predictable step, and unless the Europeans do something to live up to the obligations under the deal, I suspect that the Iranians are going to continue to counter-escalate like this.
All right, Trita Parsi with the Quincy Institute. Great to have you with us. Thanks for your analysis.